and I don't need that picture, and I know that this will glorify him. But he did put something on my heart, which I thought was interesting after what John had said. I kept getting a picture of a football. And I'm like, okay, I don't get that, Lord. I know Ryan loves football, and everybody does. You know, is it something about the Super Bowl? And, you know, I just kept seeing this football, and I knew in his faithfulness he would say what that was. And I've also learned that God speaks when you're in order. You know, when you're doing what you're supposed to do. He has really showed me that in a big way, that you're supposed to do the laundry. I'm going to speak to you in the laundry room. I'm not going to speak to you at the mall, or I'm not going to speak to you anywhere else. I'm going to speak to you in the order of your life. And so this morning, I had a lot of laundry, and there was my football. And I knew that that was the football from the Lord. And it's Sam's shirt, and it's a Life is Good shirt. And he said, life is good. And I knew that what he was talking about, because I've been able to be with the Atkins family, you know, almost every week now. And life is good over there. It really is. From somebody on the outside looking at that family, there have been times I have driven and I can always see their street, their house. I have to see it before I turn, which I know is not a coincidence. And I have been envious of the life is good there. Because Carol has told me many times at how this family is sitting around Ryan, and they're stretching him, and they're talking to each other, and they're laughing, and they're thinking about the Lord. It is not easy, but it is good. It's what a family is supposed to look like these days. And I just know that life is good there. And I thank you so much for the blessing that I have received from seeing how life is good when you are faithful and when you are looking up. And another thing that he put on my heart was Carol. And I know you will hate that I do this because she does not like to be summoned out, but I'm about obedience too. I've learned that the hard way. And he did put you on my heart. And for ladies in here who, like me, love beauty, she is not seeking facials or plastic surgery or anything, and she glows. She literally glows. When I show up at that house, I'm going, all right, should I get my hair cut like hers? Or, like, what is it? Because she is beautiful, and she grows more beautiful every day. And it's inner beauty, but it shows up physically. It is there without question. And I just thank you for the way you love your husband, the way you honor and respect your husband, and talk so highly of you, Jerry, and how you have come by this beautiful young man. And I have one young man, and I have one more thing to say about it. In being friends with Carol, I have received all kinds of gifts that she's given me that she used to raise Laura. And where Ryan is right now, in this unbelievable, peaceful, faithful position that I have witnessed, did not happen over this year. This happened because of what Jerry and Carol put into them a long time ago. The books that she has passed to me and the things that she has surrounded Laura with are so beautiful and so godly. And it just is a constant reminder to me that that is the only thing I need to worry about putting to my kids. So that when we all hit some unexpected, thing in our life, we're going to have exactly what we need, and they're going to have exactly what they need. Because it's only faith that will get you to the spot where you are right now, Ryan. I'm sure that you'll tell us all about that. So, do you want to come up here, and or should I go back? I have interviewed Patrick Swayze, Tom Jones, Martha Stewart. And like I told Ryan this morning, John reminded me of Claudia Schiffer. I forgot about her, but he did not forget about her. Do you want to first just go into, just introduce yourself, because not everybody probably knows the whole story. And I'll just...
Okay. My name is Ryan Atkins. I'm 22 years old. I attended the University of Cincinnati, and about 14 months ago, On November 20th, 2009, I was involved in a car accident in which I was paralyzed below my neck, and I'm just excited to be here to share with you all about just the experience and opportunity I've had over the past year to continue to grow in my faith and realize what's most important in my life. And I just thank you all for giving me this opportunity to come here with you today. And I know there's quite a few of you I haven't met before, but I appreciate all the support and prayers that for myself and my family, and I'm excited to be here with you all today.
Why don't you take us right to the first day of when it happened and kind of what was going through your mind and your state of mind a little bit even beforehand of who Ryan Atkins is or was and what all about.
Okay. Well, at the time of the accident, I remember I was just stuck inside the car, unable to move, and I knew it was something pretty serious, but really wasn't sure exactly. I remember just crying out to God just to save my life, and everything was pretty blurry after that. I remember getting to the hospital, and they put me into a coma pretty quickly, and then I think after a few days, when I started to realize how badly I'd been hurt, once I found out that the other four of my fraternity brothers were alive, I think ever since that point, I could really sense just the peace that I had, and I think that has continued over the past 14 months. But I think initially, after I began to realize just the peace I had, I just thought, through this time, I really had no doubt that I would fully recover, that God would heal me, but I always think of it, I guess what you were saying about my life before the accident. I looked at it as a story of Job and the trials he went through, and I kept thinking of how he would say, I praise God who gives and takes away. And in my mind at the time, I kept thinking of everything in my life that was so important to me, my friends at school and the activities I was involved with, and how all of a sudden all of that was taken away, and my ability to move and do different day-to-day things was all taken away. And obviously it was disappointing, and I was looking forward to getting back to everything else. But I think over the next few weeks and months, I realized that instead of all that stuff being taken away, it was really just different distractions in my life that had been taken away, and I was essentially given a new opportunity to continue to grow in my faith and realize what was most important in my life in terms of, especially obviously my faith, but also my family. I've obviously had the opportunity to spend lots of time with them. I never thought at the end of college I'd be spending every single day with my parents, but we can obviously enjoy the time together. And so I think my whole philosophy on that, on what Job said, praise the God who gives and takes away, it really, all of a sudden, my thoughts on that just completely changed, and I realized that everything that had been taken away is what was distracting me from what was most important in my life.
Of that moment, was there a moment where it shifted, like you kind of said, whoa?
I think that first night when I just cried out to God for my life, I think along those first few weeks, I'd always pictured it as, it'll take a few weeks, a few months, but in my mind I was always still focused on getting back to everyday life back at school and getting back to work and everything like that. And I figured, obviously God can heal me, but it'll be a lot to my own doing, and I would get home and do the physical therapy, and over time I would get back to my regular health and get back to normal day-to-day life. And so it really wasn't one moment. I think it was just over time when I continued to work on the physical therapy, and I realized, you know what, like I can't do this on my own, and it's going to take a miracle, and I trust and believe that that's what's going to happen. And I think some of the best advice I got throughout this whole time was to seek the healer and not necessarily just the healing. And once I started to do that, I realized that yes, obviously God can heal me, and that's what I believe that's going to happen. But in the process, I have the opportunity to be away from my day-to-day life and business, and school and work, and just all the other activities in college, and really grow closer in my relationship to God and my family and friends. And I think just over that time of realizing that I was not going to recover based on my own doing, I think that's when I realized that it was going to be God and not just me.
And there's been, the interesting piece to this is throughout, from the very beginning, God has been there and showed up in amazing ways that have confirmed this faith and this belief that you'll be healed totally. So this is my favorite part of it, because it really goes on and on and on, but you can't talk about everyone. But why don't you talk about the ones for you that have made you go, wow, okay, this is going to happen, Lord, thank you.
I would say just from day one, you could just tell God was in it the whole way. From physical miracles to just people being around. I know that first night, obviously at the time I was not aware of it, but right after the accident, there was a call into one of the off-duty highway patrolmen about the accident, and he and his wife said a prayer for me, and they didn't know who it was, and we found out later, once my parents had found out about what happened later on that night, and once certain friends and family got to the hospital, this ended up being a relative of my dad's, who, before my parents even knew, was already praying for me down in Rockcastle, Kentucky, where the accident happened, which was pretty amazing. And those first few weeks, people just showed up and helped with everything, to help my mom get different things she needed while she was there, to help my dad back at home, getting the house ready for when I came back. People were unbelievable and bringing meals. Obviously at the time I wasn't able to eat, but it really helped my family out a lot from day one. But in terms of the physical, initially I couldn't breathe, I couldn't talk, I couldn't eat for the first few months, and I eventually got off the ventilator about 2 months after the accident. But still, after about 3 months after, I still was unable to eat, and doctors really couldn't figure out what was going on. They did different tests, but I was really just having a problem just eating. And they told me once I started to drink and eat soft foods and continue to full meals, it would be weeks, maybe months throughout the process before I'd finally be able to eat. And so it was obviously frustrating, thinking, I haven't done anything for 3 months, so it's going to be a long time before I'm going to be able to eat again. And I know there were many fervently praying for this to happen, and I was in Atlanta, Georgia, at a spinal cord rehab facility, and they were doing different tests, and I think it was on a Friday when I started to have some improvements and be able to get some water down and stuff like that. And I worked on it a little bit over the weekend, and on Monday I took the eating test, and I passed it perfectly. And that night I was able to have my first meal, and I got to say that hospital chicken parmesan was eggplant parmesan was the best meal I've ever had in my life. And in my mind, I was thinking, you know what, the test worked, it was great, but the speech therapist kept coming in, and she's like, this is not supposed to happen. Like, we can't figure this out. Like, this doesn't happen. She kept coming in, and that's when I realized it was obviously a complete miracle that in a span of 1 weekend I was able to eat all of a sudden, when they told me it was going to take weeks, maybe months. And I know a few months back, they contacted my family and said we want to do a 6-month case study on trying to figure out how this happened and going through all the different tests, and we told them good luck. But I mean, it was obviously right from the get-go a pretty miraculous recovery in that aspect. And another thing in the physical sense, miracles was, actually just a few weeks ago, for the first time since the accident, I was able to contract some muscles in my leg and move my leg a little bit. And this is obviously something that's not supposed to happen, and everyone in the healthcare industry, and my physical therapist and nurse and everyone, they were extremely surprised, and no one could really understand what was going on. And to me, I think it's just a miracle and essentially a sign of what's to come. And I think it was pretty amazing how encouraging it was to, not only to myself to see how God's been faithful through this whole time, but just everyone else, just to see what's to come. And I think it's just been pretty cool how even friends of mine that weren't sure, like they're not really familiar with the injury, they started looking stuff up online, and they're like, no, really, like that's not supposed to happen. And so it's been pretty cool to see just the miracles throughout. I could go on and on and on, but I think those two in the physical sense were probably the most apparent throughout this time, and it's just been unbelievable to see how God's worked this entire time.
Amen. I have to add about the food thing, because I definitely have a personal piece of that. Because the food, for whatever reason, we got connected, and thank you. But when the food thing happened, when this first happened to Ryan, some friends of mine who do the listening prayer kept getting put on their heart that the Lord was going to physically heal him. And I've been down this road before with my dad, thinking this and going this way and believing that that's what I heard. But when I went to somebody who has been doing listening prayer their entire life, and I kind of went through everything with her, she said, no, everything you're hearing, your dad is probably going to have a spiritual healing, but there's not going to be physical healing. And that's not always what Jesus does, and I'm just telling you that that's not what I see here, and that was not the case. With this case, and this is a group of women that do listening prayer, have been doing it forever, I've told them everything, and they said, this looks definitely like a physical healing. And the day when Ryan started eating, I was starting to freak out because I kept saying this because a lot of people were praying and hearing it. But for me, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to keep saying this if this isn't going to be true, Lord, that you're going to do a physical healing. And so it was just one of those moments where you're just crying out to God and saying, don't put me in this odd position. I got to see something. And I just said, let him eat. Can he just eat? This is the honest God truth. And then I was in Florida and got a call from your mom and said, Ryan just ate chicken parmesan. And she did not know what my prayer was to the Father of, don't let us all keep saying this, So there's just not a doubt. And now the leg thing, so it's so exciting. And I feel like, if you want to touch on too, the pieces of people who you have seen, because of what's going on with you, their faith is awakened.
Okay. It's been pretty amazing, especially in the past few weeks with just the whole technology of being able to send out the YouTube video of my leg moving. It's been pretty amazing to see the different people who their faith has increased just being by my side through the whole time. Like you were mentioning about my family, they've just been unbelievable from day one. My dad has obviously had to sacrifice a lot just to be with me every day. Back in the day, it was to come to my baseball games early, and now it's getting up every morning early to stretch me and having to rearrange his schedule to be with me and do different things with me. My mom has just been the rock of our family, and always positive, always encouraging. And I don't think I've gone a day without seeing her since the day of the accident, which I never would think would happen at 22 years old. But my sister, as well, she's just, for anyone who knows her, she's always a joy to be around. She's always smiling, and it's been nice to see how, from when I went to college, I felt like she was about 8 years old. I come back, and now she's 18, and it's awesome being able to hang out with her around the house now. My girlfriend Liz, actually at the time of the accident, we had dated for a few years, but weren't together at that time. And since that day, she has not left my side, and has just been an unbelievable person in my life. And it's just been awesome to see friends and family come around. Just the meals, the prayers, the people that come to help with the physical stretching. I know Mr. Winstrup back there, he comes over once a week to help stretch, which has been awesome. I could go on and on about the people who have just been incredible with my family and helping us in our time of need. And it's really just, in terms of my perspective, I think when I was in college and as a man, I want to do everything on my own, and all of a sudden I am in a position to where I have to rely on other people all throughout the day, and it's really, it really, at first it's more of a pride thing, and I don't want the help, but the fact is right now I need the help, and it's been amazing to see how many people have stepped up to the plate to help me out, and especially help my family out. And it's definitely been an awesome change of perspective, and I just feel incredibly blessed with the different people who have been in my family along the way.
One thing that comes to my mind, what once Carol said to me, love has been in the room with him since the moment of this. And I just think that's amazing. And it really is. And love heals. So, and from day one, they've made sure that you've been surrounded with love. And you've been obedient. Because we talked about going back to school, which is kind of, what the world would want you to just rush right into. And why don't you talk about that tough decision and how God was faithful when you were obedient and showing you you're on the right track?
I was really, in my mind, once I got home last spring, in my mind I was always planning on going back to school in September of last year for the fall quarter at UC. And in my mind I was thinking, by then I'll be up and about, I'll be ready to go, and won't really have to worry about the physical therapy aspect and all that. And obviously as time got closer, I realized, I'm still in this condition and I'm going to have to make some different changes, and I would have to sacrifice different other things in my life right now in terms of the physical therapy and the spiritual development in order just to push through one quarter of school in a much different and more difficult situation for the time being. And I think I was more stubborn about it, and I wanted to push through, and it was kind of getting into crunch time the week of classes, and I prayed about it, and I really thought, I'll try it, see how it goes, and then all of a sudden all these professors weren't willing to work with me, and different doors continued to shut, and I think I decided the night before that I was going to wait on the class, and I think later that night, after I emailed the professors that I would wait on taking classes, I think maybe later that night, someone who I had never met from Cincinnati Hills Christian Academy from the high school called and said that she and her husband would like to come pray with me the next day, and they were in full belief that I'd be physically healed, and they'd never met us and went out on a limb to call us, and it just happened to be right during what would have been my first class, and I think that, among other things, just continued to confirm my decision. Have an opportunity like today to share my testimony, the different conversations I've had with other people, and I could have been trying to push through accounting and finance and different things like that, but I have the rest of my life to figure that stuff out, and at this time it's really not the utmost importance. And I've just realized that this really is my time to continue to grow spiritually and get closer to God, and I've really enjoyed the opportunity away from the busyness of school, of co-oping for the different jobs I had, and really the extracurriculars of college just kept me so busy that I really didn't have time for my spiritual development. Occasionally I would come home and see my family, and I realized just how much now, being away from everything, that I really was missing out on a lot of that. And like I was saying before, it's forced me to realize just how much everything at school was just a big distraction to me from what's most important, and I really appreciated that new opportunity now away from everything to really understand that.
So if today, you could go back, or what are the lasting changes, are there things that, wow, this will never change, I'll always be this way, or where are you?
I'd say obviously I try to take that decision of going back kind of quarter to quarter, but I'd say the different lessons I've learned along the way continue to grow week to week. And I mean, there's things that I've learned over the past fall, whereas if I was in class, I would have never had the opportunity. And I really just understood the importance of just having this opportunity to spend with God. I know initially one of the most frustrating aspects of dealing with spinal cord injury day to day, aside from the obvious not being able to use your limbs, is the spasms, and it's uncomfortable. When you're in public, sometimes it kind of draws attention to yourself, but throughout the night it would always wake me up, and I'd spasm, and I'd wake up at 3 in the morning and not be able to go back to sleep, and I would get so frustrated, and throughout the day I'd be really tired. And I think over time I realized that was my one opportunity throughout the day to be alone, to spend time talking to God, and just really thinking about what was most important. And since I'm with people throughout the day, all the time, because I rely on other people pretty much for everything throughout the day, this is really my one opportunity to just have quiet time, just stare at the ceiling, and really continue to grow my relationship with God. And now, whereas originally I looked at it as such a pain and frustration, now it's almost a blessing to have that time to myself, and it's really definitely changed my perspective, and to appreciate that now.
On all these questions, if there's one, first of all, is there anything that I haven't touched on that you really want to share?
Well, I would just say just the one thing that I've learned throughout this time is just the peace that God's given me throughout. I think I keep thinking back to that first day. I mean, I would never want to relive those first few weeks, and especially for my family. But just the peace that God's given. I love the verse from John 14:27, where Jesus says, "I give you peace, do not be afraid." And I really think that's been really been what I felt since the beginning. And I mean, no matter what I've had to deal with throughout the past year, and no matter what anyone else has to deal with, I mean, the peace that God gives throughout any trial and any time in anyone's life is unmatched. And I know one thing that's just kind of comes with the situation I'm in, a lot of people look at me and just give me such pity, and they feel so sorry for me, and sometimes I almost kind of look at myself and think like, wow, like, am I like delusional? Do I not like realize the situation I'm in? But it's really Philippians 4:7, it's God gives a peace that transcends all understanding, and I really think that's what it's been. And I don't really understand it at times. And sometimes I try to think, like, why am I not upset? Why am I not like really frustrated with what's going on? But I think just that peace that goes beyond all understanding is really what I've gotten to experience, and has really just continued to carry me throughout this time.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Ryan. I kind of feel like I just want to touch on one more thing about the treatment, because their treatment they're even praying about and kind of not following, the way of the world, right? You're kind of like seeking the Lord's heart on it. And just talk about your treatment, because it's different.
I would just say that in terms of my spiritual development. It's one thing I have a kind of a tough time balancing is obviously I need to focus on the physical therapy and continue to move my body around, but at the same time, like that's not what's going to heal my spinal cord, because I mean I'm around people that have the same injuries, and working out hours and hours a day is not what's going to fix my spinal cord. It's going to be the complete faith in God that He is and is willing and will be able to do that. But I think I've realized that the spiritual development and just continuing to seek God throughout this, like I said, seeking the healer, not just the healing. I think that's just been that mindset has really carried me throughout this time. And I know that obviously when that day comes, when I have a second opportunity to walk, and I mean it'll be exciting, and I mean we'll be throwing a party in my house and everything, and I mean it'll be awesome. But I think I've definitely realized more so. I realized more so after each passing month that it really will fail in comparison to my second chance to walk with the Lord and to really realign my priorities in my life and to really understand what's most important. And I've actually come to appreciate this opportunity, as opposed to look at it as this big burden and trial in my life. It's really enabled me to walk with the Lord, and so when that day comes, it'll be awesome. But I think obviously the most important part of this has been the spiritual healing as well.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Ryan. I mean, you are without doubt an inspiration and a blessing to many, many, many people. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart, because he is always peaceful that I'm there. He is always joyful, and just truly, truly an inspiration. So, thank you.
I was sitting there, we have a couple